Hi there, welcome to episode 3 of coOperators. I'm Chucking Dice, and this is Augmented Biscuits. Now, before you ask, he is just going by his Twitter handle now.
No, yeah, just to make it less confusing, and also to find me on the internet.
Okay, so what we're going to talk about is we're going to shift gears here. We're not going to talk about co-op gaming in terms of video games or board games. The first thing we're going to talk about is movies. We're going to talk about the recent Marvel movie, Captain America Civil War.
Civil War, big superhero mashup movie. I would say it's vastly superior to the Batman v Superman movie.
The court case.
The court case.
Yeah.
Also the grim, dark, everything's going to be very depressing and dark. That movie was really dark. Like
It was dark, yes.
Not theme-wise, but... Yeah. Color-wise, it was a very dark.
Everything grays.
Was everything really dark blue and gray to you?
Yeah, until the end when, spoiler alert, Doomsday starts blowing up multiple times.
And then it's like everything turns red.
Right.
For some reason.
Those of you who don't know who Doomsday is.
Please read the comic Doomsday, not the movie Doomsday. Because the movie Doomsday kind of sucks. Pretty much sucks. But Civil War, completely different. Very bright, very colorful, very hilarious.
Very funny movie.
Very funny.
Very funny.
Very. I'm also surprised how character driven it was, especially with the amount of characters they had. And
they had a lot of characters,
but they did really focus on the conflict between Captain America and Iron Man, which was great.
Right.
I personally enjoyed it a lot because they really limited Black Widow's screen time, which I don't care. I don't have anything against the actual character. I just don't like Scarlett Johansson.
What, you don't like Asian people?
I guess. Wait, is she Asian?
Apparently, she's in the new. She's going to be in the new Ghost in the Shell film.
Oh yeah, she's going to be. Yeah. Okay. I guess she's Asian. But I really like this. I honestly agree with what a lot of people were saying that it was. This is what Avengers 2 should have been.
Right.
Which I agree because I personally did not like Avengers 2.
The Age of Ultron.
Yeah, I specifically hated everything that had to do with Black Widow. Her entire arc in that movie was pointless.
Right.
It made it really did not make any sense in the grander scheme of things. So I was really happy that they reduced Black Widow's role because I really hated her arc in Age of Ultron.
Right. She didn't have a bad arc in this, though.
No, she didn't. She actually was very... I think what it is I guess I'm being a little too harsh on the actual role and the actress herself and the actual story, but I think the Russo brothers did a better job of having her at more of a supporting role,
right?
As opposed to Joss Whedon having her more prominent.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like I feel that her role being more prominent in Age of Ultron took away from other characters like Thor or Bruce Banner, the Hulk, even someone like Vision. Like I kind of feel like Vision was quickly introduced, and then hey, he's really powerful, and he's joining them in the fight against Ultron, and then that's it.
Right.
And I kind of wish. I actually was disappointed too that they killed off Quicksilver, but everything I kind of feel like was remedied with Civil War. They put a lot of other people to the forefront, specifically. Obvious because it's a Captain America movie. Would you agree that all the Captain America movies have just probably been the better of the Marvel movies?
Yeah, I would say that. With the exception maybe of the first Iron Man and Guardians of the Galaxy, the very first Captain America, first Avengers, surprised me because I didn't think it was going to be as good as it was going to be.
Yeah.
I watched it and I was thinking, well, hopefully it won't be too bad. And then after watching it, I was like, that was actually pretty amazing. They actually, my favorite part was when they were kind of showing Steve Rogers doing those cheesy, like, stage shows where he was trying to sell, like, U.S. bail bonds, U.S. war bonds.
War bonds, yeah.
And, like, that's where the legend of Captain America comes from. This is sort of, like, cheesy, sort of almost Superman-esque, Boy Scout superhero. Yeah. And then it transitions to him going into World War II, and he's in the shit basically. Yeah.
And it's great because they make it a period movie.
Right.
They make it a period piece, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But I also have to give it up for the director, Joel Johnson,
the director of The Rocketeer,
which was great because I remember when that movie came out. I remember we talked about it and we both were just we both enjoyed it so much, and we both loved it because it was just so much like The Rocketeer, which we both enjoy also.
Right, Rocketeer's a great film.
So it was great. It was very much akin to The Rocketeer, very much kind of like a period piece, serial story. And then the second Captain America.
Winter Soldier, political thriller,
which was great, and it had Robert Redford, which was awesome.
Yeah, which he was the bad guy, and he was a great bad guy.
Spoiler.
Yeah.
And it was great because then it had a really good theme of the whole, at what point do people want security? At what cost do people want security?
Right.
Which was great. Which was like the best line. I remember one of my favorite lines when he's talking to Nick Fury and they're going down to that elevator in the hangar and they see all those airships. Fury says, we can take out any threat as soon as it emerges. We don't have to wait anymore. We don't have to get caught by surprise.
Right.
And Rogers tells him, this is not the exact quote, but he tells him something akin to, "This is not security. This is holding a gun to somebody's head."
Right.
Which is for a movie like that, especially for not to knock the superhero genre, but for a movie like that, a big popcorn, big budget movie, to have a message as deep as that was great. And again, this was the Russo brothers. Yeah. So I thought it was great that they handed off the Avenger movies, or they're handing off the big team-up movies to the Russo brothers, because I really feel like there was too much Joss Whedon in Age of Ultron. It was great. I actually did enjoy the first Avengers. He was great director for the first Avengers, but I think the second one was too much Joss Whedon, and I know a lot of people are going to give me shit for that. They're going to hate me, because Joss Whedon inspired a lot of people to be very passionate. But it was just too much Joss Whedon. I mean, I don't hate Joss Whedon's stuff. I think he's a very, very talented writer. He's very good at what he does. He's very good at creating characters. But I kind of there's times in his shows where I feel that the way he writes his female characters, I feel like the way he writes his female characters are all too similar, and also they kind of cheapen them a bit.
Okay.
I guess the way I try to relate to is when I play video games, I always make the same female character. I actually have a storyline for all my female characters in video games, but the way I play specifically for Mass Effect, I have these very strong female characters who are very have a lot of empathy and a lot of compassion, but are still yet they're still really tough, very hard asses, very like tough as nails, and I guess I don't like the way I guess I've seen so much of Josh Whedon's stuff, like I feel like all his female characters are the same.
Oh, the same.
They're these very strong, very powerful female characters, but they have this like kind of weakness or huge vulnerability, or just like they're broken in some way. And I felt like Scarlett Johansson, or I don't say Scarlett Johansson, but Black Widow's the thing that was broken in her in Age of Ultron was her being sterilized.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like they focused.
A lot of people had that same kind of
and I guess that kind of cheapened that character for me, and her saying that
she can't have babies.
Yeah, which was like, I mean, in age now, I mean, it's not a huge thing. I mean, a woman not having kids, I mean.
Yeah, depending on their opinion on whether they want it or not. And like, maybe this character does want it, but like, I didn't, I actually liked Age of Ultron. Just because it was sort of a transitionary movie to Civil War. I don't think you could have Civil War without an Age of Ultron. Yeah. You need that time where the Avengers are having fun.
And I agree with you. It's very much a transition movie, and I think that was the problem I had with it. It's very blatantly a transition movie. It really is, and but you're also incorrect in saying that without that movie we wouldn't have something as awesome as Civil War.
Right. There, something to, like, I don't want to say compare, but just to show the relationship between the characters. It's almost as if you're watching a television show, except like, the movies are just coming out, in between a span of a year, or the episodes are coming out in the span of a year, if you're, comparing with like a television show. One of the things I really, dug about Civil War is that, like, it kind of like combined all these like different types of films that have nothing to do with superheroes. Like we talked about Winter Soldier being a political thriller, and in many ways, I felt Civil War like began like Heat, with Robert De Niro and Al Pacino. There's elements of The Godfather like all around it, just like
Guarding legacies, and families
and stuff like that.
And there was still that political thriller aspect of it too, with things like Winter Soldier, but also Zemo, Baron
Zemo,
Baron Zemo, which is great. And then it was one of the scenes that was really nice, was really kind of brutal too, is when they show, again, spoiler for anyone who hasn't seen this, is when they show Winter Soldier actually killing Stark's parents.
Yeah, when he kills his parents, when Winter Soldier kills Stark's parents in front of camera, that probably was the most striking scene, and no one really, I think I kind of had the assumption that that's what happened, but I didn't know what the setup was going to be and why Zemo was doing it. So in the setup of the scene, this is all going to be spoilers. Captain America and the Winter Soldier go to this place in Siberia because apparently there's other super soldiers that are still that have been experimented on and been trained and are dangerous. So it's under the assumption of Captain America and the Winter Soldier that Baron Zemo is going to use this for to take over the world or something like that. Which sure, and then it kind of also has Iron Man coming in and discovering that Baron Zemo is the guy who set us all up. So this is I can't start fighting Captain America about this superheroes accord thing. So he actually ends up joining up with them and saying, okay, let's do this. Let's
just take this guy down.
Yeah, let's take this guy down. They walk into the room where all the super soldiers are, and all of them have a bullet into their head. They've all been shot, and you realize that this is not, they're not going to be fighting these super soldiers. And Baron Zemo basically says, here, I'm going to show you a video, and it's a video of the Winter Soldier who was at the time mind controlled, brutally killing Stark's dad.
I'm actually surprised how I didn't think they were actually going to show it.
Yeah,
they were actually going to be that in depth with it, but
right.
It was very, very brutal scene to watch, especially when he kills Howard Stark.
Right.
John Slattery, rest in peace.
Right.
I love that guy. So I was saying, it's great. I think the directors and the directors and the writers did a very good job of really turning this entire thing around and surprising the viewers, because you're expecting this big bad, this big bad guy who set them all up to get his comeuppance, and then you realize his plan isn't something as grand as world domination, or even just getting rich, or it was something very personal.
Right.
He wanted to destroy them from the
inside.
From the inside, He wanted to bring down an empire, as he says. Right.
So the setup is that Baron Zemo, he actually is based on a actual Marvel character. He's a little bit more, I guess you could say, comic booky, almost like a Bond villain. But in this movie, he's a schemer, and he's a schemer with purpose. So Zemo in the film had a family who got killed during the battle in Age of Ultron. And it's great. He's got a phone with him, and he listens to it, and he's listening to a message from his wife, and we don't know they've already been killed. It's almost as if he was kind of doing this entire scheme of planning of bringing down the Avengers, but also he has a family too, and his wife's leaving a little message about their son. I was like, okay, well, what's up with that? And we find out that that's an old message that he's just kind of been listening to, and it's kind of been driving him to get revenge on the Avengers. And like you said, it's destroying them in the inside, because why? He even says, better men have tried to destroy the Avengers than
more powerful
men have tried to destroy the Avengers. He wasn't going to kill them with super soldiers, but he could make them kill each other,
which is great.
Yeah.
Which is for as far as villain plotting, that's probably one of the best plots you can have.
Right.
But the big battle that everybody wanted to see was all the superheroes fighting. You had your Captain America side, and your Iron Man side, and there was a few surprises. I think my favorite, I would have to say my favorite, was, and it wasn't a huge surprise, but was still great, was them bringing in Paul Rudd as Ant-Man.
Right, as Ant-Man.
Which I really do like. I'm a Paul Rudd fan, and I loved Ant-Man. So it was great that they brought him in here, and it also it was great that they brought him in because like the Russo brothers have said, they had to have that. There's a lot of heavy themes going on, but you also have to have that sense of humor to kind of lighten the mood a little bit, because you don't want people to be too tense. You want people to enjoy themselves. And I mean, would you agree? I mean, the movie was pretty tense, you know, from the beginning up to that point. Like, there was a lot of stuff going on. There was a lot of, you know, heavy dialogue, a lot of heavy themes, a lot of characters, you know, making decisions, things like that. And then when you bring in characters like Ant-Man to kind of lighten the load, you're like, okay, this is gonna. You start having a lot more fun with it, because you're just like, oh, Ant-Man, he's making all these jokes, and he's just like, he also fanboys out.
Right.
Which
no,
is
he
great.
does. It's a great scene. Not just Ant-Man, but probably the best Spider-Man that we've ever been given. Tom Holland as Spider-Man was incredible.
Which is great.
Yeah.
I agree with you, because he was very much a kid, and a very, very geeked out kid.
Right, a very geeked out kid who has a hot Aunt May. I know, like a lot of the internet, there's like, well, that's not Aunt May. Aunt May is supposed to be at death's door. I'm like, I don't care. Marissa Tomei as Aunt May is. I'm down.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because they even, you know, Tony Stark even mentions things like that. It's like your unbelievably hot aunt, which is great. But it was funny because they did a very good job with who they picked with for Spider-Man, because the repertoire they had between him and Tony and Robert Downey Jr. The dialogue just flowed really, really, really well, and it just like just the way they were doing combat, you know, they're taking jabs at each other, but they're also they had a lot of chemistry,
right?
And it was great, and then throwing him into the mix into that fight was awesome. It was
great, yeah.
Like seeing him fight and I mean,
watching him wall crawl.
Yeah,
we've
seen Spider-Man fight before in several movies, but I would have to say this one, he's a lot more athletic.
Yeah,
he was doing a lot more. I think he was doing a lot more moves that are more akin to the comic, as far as incorporating his acrobatics with web slinging and things like that. And then the humor was great. You know, it was.
Dude, you got a metal arm? Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, I enjoyed it. And then the big distraction. Paul Rudd finally. I stopped saying Paul Rudd. I should say it. Ant-Man finally becoming. Yeah, Scott Lang finally becoming big.
Yeah, becoming Giant Man.
Giant
basically.
Man. Yeah, which was great. Which was like, because even, I mean, I think I was grinning my ass off when he becomes big, because he's just like, whoa, he's like, oh man, I'm big, because that's what everybody in the audience was thinking, like, holy shit, he's big.
Right, and it looked really good.
Yeah,
and I loved how like they were fighting him at that point, because he was huge, so they were all working together to try and knock him down. And like, I love what Spider-Man does. He says, hey, remember that old movie Empire Strikes Back?
Yeah.
The one with the walkers, and like they did the Luke Skywalker thing of like, you know.
And I love Stark and Rhodey like saying, seriously, how old is this kid? Like,
yeah, I didn't carbon date him when I recruited him,
which is great. That was one of the big highlights. And then I would say, I mean, you would agree with me. I'm sure you would agree with me. One of the very pleasant surprises they had, and I would say probably one of the aspects of the movie that I think is not talked about enough was Black Panther.
Yeah,
it was just how
Black Panther's awesome.
Well, how amazing. I don't really have a huge knowledge of Black Panther, but the actor they got for Black Panther,
Chadwick Boseman,
and the way, just like what he did in that movie, which is great. Like, his introduction was awesome.
Yeah,
his suit was great. You know, he's very much a mix of. I know Black Panther is similar to like Batman, so it's Marvel's answer to Batman from the DC universe. But
he also has elements of Stark. You know, it's got technology on the side too.
and you know, he's got the riches but he was very, 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 very good character.
Yeah,
great introduction. His fight scenes were amazing.
I love that scene where Hawkeye basically. I don't think we've formally been introduced. I'm Hawkeye, and he says, "I don't care." And basically, they start fighting.
Yeah. And his I
great.
mean, everything about him was great, and I thought this was a great way to the way they introduced him, and it was a lot of those themes that ran through this movie. Some of those themes were established by his dad, as far as, you know,
T'Chaka.
yeah, his dad T'Chaka. I really try not to pronounce their names because I know I'm gonna murder it.
Yeah.
But I love how his dad, you know, that was like the one very good scene, very good line in the movie. It's like, you know, any victory at the cost of a victory at the cost of I don't remember the exact line, but he's essentially saying a victory at the cost of innocent lives is not a victory at all.
Right.
Which is great. Which is honestly is what the entire setup of the movie was. And it's funny because after watching it, you know, and decompressing and kind of taking everything in, I kind of feel like that's maybe what Batman vs Superman was trying to do.
I think, like, I love the concept, like, so in the end, Baron Zemo's about to kill himself, because, like, he knows that it's really through for him, and it's almost as if he's, like, one of those, like, public shooters that go to, like, you know, this is horrible things that you can do, but goes to a school or a public place, just start shooting people, and in the end, they, you know, end up, like, more than likely, like, just
essentially
shooting themselves.
their mission is accomplished.
Yeah.
They've succeeded in what their goal was.
Yeah. Whereas in the case, Baron Zemo was about to do that, but, you know, Black Panther, who, you know, throughout the entire movie thought that the Winter Soldier killed his father, you know, T'Challa, basically confronts Baron Zemo and finds out about the ploy, and he says that, you know, vengeance has consumed you, and vengeance has consumed them, meaning, you know, Winter Soldier, Iron Man, and Captain America. And he goes, I'm through with vengeance, which I think is awesome. It's like a great thing to say. And he basically says, like, you know, you will pay for your crimes. Baron Zemo puts a gun up to his head, and Black Panther saves him, which great, because you just saved a really great villain. You probably saved maybe the third best Marvel villain. Like, first one I would say Kingpin. Yeah. And then Loki, and maybe Baron Zemo. Maybe Kilgrave from Jessica Jones, but like.
But
he's dead.
You know, the thing though with Kilgrave is at what point I kind of feel like Kilgrave is what the Joker is. At what point do you just, like, you know, fuck it, just kill him.
Right.
Just get it. Just do it, because he's keeping him alive and trying to show him a better way is just too much work.
Right.
It's not that it's too much work, but it's just like it's not gonna work. It's like he's gonna do whatever the fuck he wants to do.
Although I hope they bring him back in some way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just like great, because like you had a superhero who ended up like saving the villain, saying like, no, this is not how you're going to go down. And I do agree with you. Batman's character is all about vengeance. You know, he wants to avenge his parents, but sometimes that message kind of gets lost, and like his character kind of gets lost in this like sort of weird emo kind of way.
Well, I think it's vengeance and also justice.
Justice, right.
Also justice, but I do agree with you that it sometimes gets lost in translation.
It definitely got lost in Batman v Superman.
And I think another really another really wonderful thing was how the writers and directors really set up Black Panther to have an entire character growth in one movie.
Right.
Whereas all these other characters, they grew as characters throughout, you know, 3 movies. They had Black Panther grow
like,
as a character.
This one movie,
and it felt very organic, very organic, very real. And you're right, like, you know, he saw the result of what vengeance does to people, you know,
and says, no, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah, and he decides it's not for him. And I agree with you. I'm glad they didn't have Baron Zemo kill himself. I'm glad that he saved him. Yeah. Because even then, you know, that can also set him up to be a very good mastermind, manipulative villain later on.
Now you can do the comic booky Baron Zemo that, you know, maybe some of the fanboys like wanted.